What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So the NBA playoffs tips off on Saturday with game ones of the first round, with more game ones coming on Sunday, Easter Sunday, to get all of these series started as we move into the NBA playoffs after the play-in tournament this week, locking up the 7th and 8th seeds for both the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference. Now, peek behind the curtain, we're recording this in the fourth quarter of the Dallas versus Memphis game. Memphis is up 17 at time of recording, so we are going to assume that Memphis is going to lock up that 8th seed, but obviously anything can happen. There's still like 10 minutes left in that game, so if things change as we are talking about this, then we will add that in here. But spoiler alert, whoever was coming out of this game wasn't going to affect the west side of this bracket anyway, so that's why we are starting it right now. But before we do jump in, if you could just hit that like and subscribe button down there. We'll have more NBA content on the channel throughout the playoffs, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a video. So we're going to go through each series, give our predictions for this series. If we can, maybe give an X factor or something we're looking for in that series. And then we're going to go ahead and predict the rest of the playoffs as well, all the way down to the Western Conference champion, Eastern Conference champion, our NBA Finals predictions, and who is going to win the championship at the end of this thing. So we're just going to start out in the Western Conference with the one-seeded 68-14 Thunder versus the 8th seed, presuming that it's going to be the Memphis Grizzlies here. Now, this one I think could be interesting. Now, if you watch my play-in tournament preview video, I did think Dallas was actually going to win this game and secure the 8th seed, and I said I thought Anthony Davis could get them 1, possibly 2 games. You're looking at Memphis, definitely an interesting situation, obviously getting rid of Taylor Jenkins at the end of the year. But when things are going, they are still a fairly good team, and I know that Memphis team feels like they can beat anyone in the Western Conference or the East. I mean, they feel like they can beat anyone in the NBA. And when they're playing at their best, they definitely can. Can they do that 4 times against the #1 seed in both the Western Conference and the NBA? I don't think they can do that 4 times, but I mean, you know, with what Jaren Jackson does, what Ja does, Desmond Bane, and then some of the other pieces that they have there as well, I definitely think they will get 1 or 2 games out of this. But I think at the end of the day, just too much Shea, too much Thunder overall, and I think in this one that I actually do kind of like, especially the way that that Memphis has been playing. I like Memphis to actually get 2 games in this one. I know I saw a lot of people saying, 5 games, 4 or 5 games for whoever is the 8th seed here. I'm not fully, like, the Thunder are the Thunder. Yes, they're an incredible team. I think they're going to have a good playoff run. But I think the Memphis Grizzlies can get 2 games out of this. So I got the Thunder advancing to the second round in 6 games. But this is all key on Jaren Jackson. Can he exploit that matchup, or can he win the matchup, I guess, should I say, against Chet Holmgren at the 4, 5, whatever either of them are playing at the time when they're on the floor. If Jaren Jackson can win that matchup, then I think that's a key to Memphis winning, 1 or 2 games. If that matchup is kind of a wash, or Chet wins that matchup, then I think that this one will go to the Thunder. And it could be even in 5, maybe 4. But I think Jaren Jackson can win a couple of these matchups to get Memphis 2 games. Next up, 4-5 matchup, and arguably usually 4-5 matchup in theory should be the closest, tightest matchup on each side of the bracket. And peeking ahead to the Eastern Conference too, I think this range true for both sides. I think this 4-5 matchup between the Nuggets and the Clippers, both 50-32 on the year. I think this is going 7 games, just flat out. And I believe this is truly a toss-up. I mean, the Nuggets, they will have the best player on the floor in Nikola Jokic. But the way the Clippers have been playing, they've been incredibly hot this last couple weeks to close this NBA season. And, with Kawhi Leonard healthy, playing the way he is, James Harden with him healthy, playing the way he is, with the supporting cast that Ty Lue has there with the Clippers, they are a very scary team in this situation. The Denver Nuggets, obviously, just getting rid of Michael Malone a couple weeks ago, kind of switching things up towards the end of the season. But at the end of the day, you have to respect Nikola Jokic. As I said, he is a top 3-4 player in the NBA right now. So this would not surprise me if this goes 7 games, and game 7 we see a vintage 44, 15 rebounds, 12 assist game from Nikola Jokic to push Denver into that second round. But I'm going to go with the Clippers. With how they are playing, so this last little bit of the season here to close this season. I got the Clippers continuing that in the first round of the playoffs, moving on, and I think Ty Lue is a big part of this thing here. He's an incredible coach. Some coaching adjustments against obviously an interim coach there in Denver. Obviously, as we said, moving on from Michael Malone. So obviously, I think the coaching matchup will go to the Clippers in this one. But I think this is going to be a very close series, and this would not surprise me at all if Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and them. I mean, they're championship battle tested, so it would not surprise me if they steal this 1-7. But then another intriguing matchup: the 3-seeded Lakers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, only one game separates these two: the 3 seed versus the 6 seed, which 2 through 8 in this Western Conference was really only separated by a handful of games. Shows you, how tight this race was in the Western Conference and how many good games there was the last week or two of the regular season. But Lakers Timberwolves, I think this comes down to a couple things. Lakers, obviously, when you're looking at superstars, the Lakers have 2 compared to Minnesota 1, with LeBron and Luka versus Minnesota with Anthony Edwards being that superstar. But when you get down to things like Austin Reeves, really good player for the Lakers, and when you look at Minnesota, I think Minnesota has more like supplemental pieces for Anthony Edwards, and supplemental pieces that can pick up the pieces. Like we know what we're going to get from Bron, we know what we're going to get from Luka, and for the most part, I feel like Reeves has been fairly consistent throughout his career. But I think the X factor in this thing is Austin Reeves. I think if Austin Reeves gives you 18, 20 plus a night, I think the Lakers win this one in 6. If Austin Reeves is kind of up and down here, maybe 14 points a game, 15, 16, if he's somewhere in that, low to mid teens range, then I think this is a series that, hey, Ant could just do some incredible things and, with his supporting cast, win this series. But I think at the end of the day, I think this will be a close series. I don't think there'll really be any blowouts either. Maybe one, maybe the Lakers, the Lakers get one at home or Minnesota gets one at home in terms of a blowout. But either way, I think this series is at least going 7, but would not be surprised if Anthony Edwards is able to kind of push this one to 7. We did see what Luka did against Minnesota last year in the playoffs, so we'll see. But I am curious how things pan out in this series. But at the end of the day, I think just a simple math equation. Lakers have 2 superstars and just 1 superstar for them. I think at the end of the day, LeBron and Luka will make more plays throughout the course of a 7-game series to win this one, and I got the Lakers advancing in 6 games. And then Houston versus the Warriors, and Houston, the 2 seed, 52-30. Warriors getting in through the play-in, securing that 7 seed, 48-34. So again, only 4 games separating these 2 teams. Warriors won the season series in this one, and this is a very interesting matchup. Rockets beat Golden State just the week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Less than 2 weeks ago, whatever it is now. But this is a matchup that is very intriguing because it's kind of, the reverse of each other. The Rockets, obviously, this was a rivalry for, 2014, 15, to 19, that era with obviously Steph, and the Warriors coming up into the dynasty, and then Houston with James Harden and Chris Paul and, Mike D'Antoni and, that kind of era of Houston Rockets basketball. But obviously this is completely different. Both teams are completely different. Obviously the only fixtures for the Warriors still left from that run is Steph, Dre, and Steve Kerr, Kevon Looney as well you can throw in there. But two completely different sides of things. Houston, really, really young. Not a lot of playoff experience outside of, Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, you can throw in there as well. Steven Adams, you can throw in there for the Rockets as well. And then for the Warriors, obviously, you have your top three guys have incredible playoff experience in Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler. So two kind of contrasting styles. Whereas the Rockets, I wouldn't say any of those 3 players that we mentioned are their best or most important player in this series. I think, their best player, I guess you could probably say, or the players that this thing will kind of hinge on is Jalen Green, is Alfred Sengun, Amen Thompson on the defensive side of things. But what can Jabari Smith do in his matchups? I think it's going to be interesting up and down the board. And this is a series that throughout the regular season was played very closely. I mean, I think I saw a stat yesterday that it was, all of the games that they played this year was decided by, within 8 points. So, and we saw that, really high quality basketball. And I expect this series to be really close to. I don't expect either team to, get blowouts. I'm not saying there could be an outlier, one, blowout game. Maybe a team doesn't shoot well from three, or team turns the ball over, 20 something times, whatever, that can happen. But I really do think that this is going to be a series full of really close games. And, for me, I think when you kind of look at the scope of things don't get me wrong, Houston is a really good team and has a lot of really good, young, unproven, in terms of playoff time, players going into this series. Now, they could step up, have a playoff moment, have a, hey, welcome to the playoffs moment, and then taking that by the horns and running with it. But at the end of the day, when you're just looking at this thing, Golden State has the three best players on the court for this series. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler. I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And, just the way that they play too, with Jimmy Butler coming in. I mean, we saw it, throughout his time here with the Warriors. It's, hey, Warriors are struggling. Maybe shots aren't falling. Maybe, XYZ isn't going right. Hey, get Jimmy the ball. He slows things down, dissects the defense, gets to the basket, gets fouled, goes to the free throw line, slows the game down, let everything, slow everything down for everyone, and then get everyone to set their defense, still playing defense too. And we saw it in the game on Sunday against the Clippers, which, turned out to be a loss for the Warriors. And then in the play-in game on Tuesday, when he needs to score, he can score 25, 30, he was approaching 40 points. I think he finished with 38 on Tuesday in the play-in game to secure that 7th seed. So he can do that, but that doesn't affect his defense on the other side, and it doesn't affect him rebounding the basketball, passing the basketball, and then obviously Steph Curry, he's the clutchest player in the NBA. I don't think there's a debate about that, right now at all. So, yes, I'm going with the Warriors in 6 to advance past Houston. I think this is going to be a really good, tight series throughout this series, all 6 games. But I got Golden State moving on to the second round in 6 games. And then let's just finish out the Western Conference. We got the 1-seeded Thunder versus the 5-seed Clippers. I think this is going to be a really good, tight series. I think this one is going to go 7, though. But at the end of the day, I think the Thunder will just have too much. I think the Clippers, will give a really good fight, especially if Kawhi and James Harden continue to play the way they play. Norman Powell keeps doing what he's doing as well. But I think at the end of the day, the Thunder are able to squeak it out and advance to the Western Conference Finals, but very, very tight. Would not surprise me if Kawhi just goes on an insane run. James Harden continuing to make shots. If the Clippers pull this one out, I think if they do pull it out, it would be in 6 or 7. I don't think they're winning this thing in 4 or 5. And I don't think the Thunder are winning this thing in 4 or 5. So I think this is for sure going 6, but I got the Thunder winning in 7. And then moving down to the bottom, a rematch from a couple years ago here in the playoffs, the Lakers versus the Warriors. Now, the biggest difference, I think, in the series from, a couple years ago, and even earlier 2-3 months ago in this matchup, is obviously Anthony Davis not being there. And you swap him out with Luka. And obviously there's other pieces that, you have to, put into account here. But I think the Lakers teams with Anthony Davis, I think, created a bigger matchup problem for the Warriors than this current Lakers team with Luka, LeBron, Austin Reeves, and how they're made up. Because Anthony Davis, while Golden State does have good 4 or 5, they have Draymond Green, and he would be on Anthony Davis at times. But when he did get switches onto different bigs, whether Kevon Looney, Trey Jackson-Davis, or any other bigs that had played for the Warriors throughout the last couple years, and love Kevon Looney, love Trayce Jackson-Davis, but with Anthony Davis, he can bring it out to the perimeter. And, Kevon, TJD, they can hang in there. But at the end of the day, Anthony Davis, if he's healthy, is a top 5-7 player in this league, in my opinion, and, can do more on the perimeter and do some stuff off the bounce that would cause problems. And Draymond Green, he's the best defender in the league. He hung in there and could do that, but you need Draymond Green also doing other things on offense, especially with LeBron floating around on offense too, and Reeves, finding touching corners as well. So that's why I think that Lakers team with Anthony Davis causes more matchup problems for the Warriors. Not saying that adding a top 5 player when healthy in the league in Luka Doncic makes this an easy matchup. Not at all. But I think in this matchup now you have LeBron who wants the ball in his hands. You have Luka wants the ball in his hands, and then now you're playing, Jackson Hayes at the 5. You're, doing different things. You're not so much worried about a 4-5, dominating you for 25 and 14 like Anthony Davis would. So, and with the addition of Jimmy Butler too, just gives you an extra body to throw at LeBron, throw at Luka as well. So I think that's going to be a big thing to watch in this series. But I think at the end of the day, I think the Jimmy Butler addition is what is kind of the difference here. I think Jimmy Butler getting an assignment probably, on Luka in this series, and not saying he's going to slow Luka down, but just slowing things down enough that is going to allow the Warriors to sneak out of this series in 6 games and advance to the Western Conference Finals. But obviously, I think this would be one of the more entertaining second-round matchups throughout the NBA. And then moving on to the Western Conference Finals, Thunder versus Warriors. Now, obviously, Thunder would be heavily favored in this one, but I mean, the Warriors playing really good basketball, obviously, over the last couple months since Jimmy Butler coming in. And I think that's the thing here is the Thunder. Obviously, they've been knocking at the door for a couple years with Shea and, the group, Chet Holmgren, everything that they've gone through, Williams, all bringing in Alex Caruso as well. Really good team, obviously. The Warriors, with the way that they played the last couple months since Jimmy Butler came in, Steph Curry being who he is in the playoffs as well, Draymond Green being one of the best defenders in NBA history, being one of the best playoff defenders and performers as well, Jimmy Butler being an incredible playoff performer as well, and seeing what he's done fitting into this team over the last couple months as well. I got the Warriors winning this one, but I got the Warriors winning it at 7, so definitely going to be a grueling road throughout these Western Conference playoffs. So I got the Warriors coming out of the Western Conference. Let's head over to the Eastern Conference. The 1-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers versus the 8-seeded Miami Heat. Now, I think the Heat can push the Cavs a little bit here. I'm not saying push them 6-7 games or that the Heat are going to win this series, but I think the Cavs still get this done in 5. But I think it's 5 that, a 4-1 series in which Miami has a chance to win, 1 or 2 more games. It's like, hey, we were right there, maybe missed a shot, or, maybe, Cleveland just got to stop, whatever. But I think this is going to be a 4-1 series, but closer than 4-1, series for the eye test, if that makes sense. And then 4-5, 4 versus 5, should I say, Indiana Pacers versus Milwaukee Bucks. Going to be a very close series. I think this is going 7. So I think both 4-5 matchups are going to go 7 games. This one, obviously, with Damian Lillard, getting healthy. Thankfully, he is getting healthy, and still going to be out for Game 1. But status, how is Damian going to fit in back into the playing group? Once he is back on the court and in a live NBA game, I'm curious. I think that is the X factor in this one. But at the end of the day, I think Milwaukee will have the best player on the floor in Giannis. The Pacers will have home court in this one, but this is one that I keep flipping back and forth between, but I'm going to go with my original gut feeling that the Pacers are going to win this one and advance to the second round. Knicks Pistons. This is one that, and rightfully so, people are, liking the Pistons, to possibly upset the Knicks in this one. Kind of a spicy 3-6 upset pick here. The Knicks, obviously 51-31, 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. They've been there. Listen, they have Jalen Brunson, a proven big-time performer and a big-time playoff performer as well. Mikal Bridges, obviously, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, Josh Hart throw in there. Really good team for New York, but Pistons obviously young, not really too much playoff experience on that roster. I don't know off the top of my head, besides Malik Beasley, who I don't know who else on the Pistons roster. I don't know the Pistons roster off the top of my head, top to bottom. But I think that's what this comes down to. I think this series will go 6 games, but I think the Knicks, because Jalen Brunson and the playoff performer that he is, does enough to get the Knicks to the second round here. Now, the Boston Celtics versus Orlando Magic. I think similar to the Cavs versus Heat series, I think the Magic can push the Celtics a little bit here. Now, when I say push, I mean push to possibly steal 2 games. I think the Celtics still win this thing in 5, but I think the Magic will, find a way to win, say, a game 3 or a game 4 at home, and maybe be close in a game 2 or something in Boston. But at the end of the day, I think the Celtics win this one in 5. So going to the second round, the Cavs versus the Pacers. I think the Cavs win this in 6. I think that what Cleveland has done this year, Kenny Atkinson, arguably coach of the year, their first year there in Cleveland, what he's done to, kind of get the best out of everyone there. I think that'll show in this Pacers series, and just the different ways that they can attack you. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, a lot of different ways. Jared Allen as well. And, Pacers are a really good team. They had a nice run in the playoffs last year as well, too. But, so they do have some of that experience. But at the end of the day, I think the Cavs get this done, advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, because I think this is setting up a collision course. At the bottom of this bracket, we got the Knicks and the Celtics, and I think the Celtics get this in 6. I think just too much firepower for the Celtics. We'll get past the Knicks and setting up this collision course that it seems like we've been on all year for the Cavs versus Celtics. Now, getting out in front, I think this one goes 7 as well. So, would be incredible TV if we get the Western Conference and Eastern Conference Finals going 7 games, like I am predicting. Now, in this one, at the end of the day, I'll take a step back and say this. Both of these teams, historically, I cannot stand either of these teams. So it pains me to have to choose one of these teams to advance to the NBA Finals. But they're the 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference, and they are 2 of the best 3-4 teams in the NBA this year. 2 of the best 3 teams in the NBA this year. So that's where we're sitting at. But the Cavs versus the Celtics. Obviously, Cavs will have home court in this one. But I think at the end of the day, I don't think it'll matter too much. I think this will be a close series, but I think the Celtics will get this done on the road in 7 and advance back to the NBA Finals. I think at the end of the day, just the experience there. I think the Cavs are right there and could very well steal this series if someone, a key contributor for Boston, doesn't show up and play well. Then I think the Cavs can definitely steal this series and get back to the finals. But I think just looking at it right now, a month and a half or so before this series could even potentially happen, I think the Celtics will get it done and advance back to the NBA Finals, setting up a rematch of the 2022 Finals. Now, obviously, everyone knows what happened in that series. Golden State won that one in 6 to get Steph, Clay, Draymond, Steve Kerr, and everyone on the Warriors their 4th ring. Obviously, Boston, that was kind of their first time breaking through that Eastern Conference Finals and getting to the NBA Finals. But now they've had that experience. They had that experience against the Warriors, and then they won the NBA championship last year. So they definitely will have revenge on their mind in this one. But I'm sorry, and you won't convince me that with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr coaching, 4 games away from getting a 5th title, and Jimmy Butler 4 games away from getting his 1st title, I'm sorry, I'm not picking against that. I don't care who you have on the other side there. But I do think it'll be another 6-game series. But I do think the Warriors will get it done in 6 games at home against the Celtics in the NBA Finals to secure ring number 5 for Steph, Dre, and the Warriors here in this dynasty run. So that's how I got this NBA playoffs shaking out. But as I said, we will have videos throughout the NBA playoffs as well. As series kind of unfold and things start to happen, we'll have videos throughout the NBA playoffs. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a video. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.